Before we start our podcast today, we'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting.
The Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
Good morning and welcome to our podcast on changing patterns.
It's not doing it.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
It is doing it.
Well, why isn't it writing it down?
I've not been doing that for ages, since ages of upgrades.
No, I've just screwed it, haven't I?
No, it's all right. We could just leave that in there. Little technical hitch there, people. So today we'll
I'm the technical hitch.
My name's Kevin, and there's a technical hitch sitting next to me called...
Janine, hi, and welcome to the podcast.
And we're going to talk about changing patterns. Did I already say that? Okay.
So the technical hitch sitting next to me is called Kevin.
Whoa. Woody, woody, woody. All right, so changing patterns, I don't know. A lot of my life has been about changing patterns, but I guess that's not all you were meaning. You're meaning small patterns as well as huge patterns.
I guess I wanted to talk about all things changing patterns.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is there's some of the hardest things you can do. And I think, would it be fair to say that all of us have something we would like to change? Even if we're an evolving person. Oh, you've got your hand up.
I have. I've got my hand up.
Yeah. The person there with the hand up.
What do you mean now?
Yes. You've got something?
I still have some things that I would like to. I still have things I would like to change. Things about me that I would like to change. But I don't know if they ever will, some of them. And there are all sorts of different things. Like, what was the thing this morning? Anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
You can call it lots of different things, but really it's about anxiety. I have anxiety about things so badly that on a daily basis, that's badly, goodly. On a daily basis, I do a meditation, a guided meditation, which is really fantastic. Guided by a guy called Andy, who happens to be one of the founders of Headspace, and it's immensely helpful. It's really good.
But in the changing patterns,
yeah,
it sounds like what you're doing is you're taking measures to actually change those patterns. So you're in process. And I think that's all we can all do. And I wanted to say around how difficult it is, but just keep going.
Yeah. And becoming aware that a pattern is actually a pattern.
Yeah.
So this is just something I do is very different from saying, oh, this is a pattern that I've done for X amount of days or weeks or months or years. And I'd like to not do it anymore.
I think that we all move in patterns and cycles, and it's knowing our patterns, which is exactly as you said, that is really crucial to changing anything, because if you don't know it, even if you don't want to face it, I think that's another level of not wanting to know. If you don't face your patterns, then you can't change anything.
Yeah. It can take some awful things to... So, when I was 24, and I was back in my hometown, and I was in an awful state. I had hepatitis B, and I weighed, I don't know, just a few kilos, and I'd been bound over to keep the peace for a week because I'd done some stupid things, all drug related. It's all drug related. And I was put in a prison hospital for a week, and I had the most horrendous withdrawals. And I met someone in there I knew who was also doing the same thing, and he never got out of there. He died. His body just gave up. And anyway, I ended up back on the streets of my hometown, and for the first time ever, I had that awareness, what we were just talking about. I knew suddenly what I'd been doing. I know this will sound crazy to everybody out there, maybe even to you, Janine, but I'd been taking drugs, mostly opiates, for 12 years, and I thought I was okay, even though I was sick and I was broke and I was, as I just said, in and out of institutions. I still thought I was doing okay, and everybody else wasn't. I was walking down this familiar street, thinking, I'm okay, I'll just go and score and then that'll be good. And I had this is a changing patterns, I had this experience inside of my body, which is inside of my mind really, but I think it was in my whole body which said, no, you're not going to do that. Your brother offered you some help, turn around and go and see him and accept the help. And
wow. So you're saying that the thought was that the new pattern that...
Yes.
That
it became the new pattern.
Before?
At the moment it was like, who the hell is that talking? And I'm looking around to see who it was, and I didn't analyse it. I had this ongoing conversation for maybe 30 seconds, maybe as much as a couple. And I turned around and I went and saw my brother, and he was so lovely. He was running a recording company. And I walked past his secretary and into his office, and he looked at me and raised his eyebrows, and I said, I'm done, I finished. And he just picked his keys up in his car in his house and said, there you go. Only one rule, don't take any drugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that was...
that was a huge one.
I thought you were going to say that was the start of you changing patterns, but changing your... Stop using drugs, I suppose.
Yeah. It was the start.
Mm.
Yeah. But it was big. Doesn't need to be big. That's my experience.
It's interesting because I think some of the smaller patterns and changing the smaller patterns can be some of the bigger and most profound things that you can do.
Yeah.
I remember when we lived in Sydney, I was a person who, whilst I was growing up, had been a person who had learnt to survive saying yes to everything. You want me to do something? Yes, I'll do it. If I can help you out, yes. I was a people pleaser and I would do anything for anybody if they asked, and probably everybody be stressed out of my brain, but that's how I had survived and that's how I got on in life. And I remember this particular time we lived in this small street in Sydney. Our two children at that stage were 4 and 5 and attending school, and the children from the street would come over and play, but this particular boy next door would come over most every day. And what happened is I really wanted to say no, but I didn't know how. I would have incredible headaches every day because I just couldn't say no to this little boy, and it became so difficult for me that what I would end up doing was I'd pick up my daughters from school and I would go elsewhere, because if I didn't come home, then he would come over to play. So in that way, I was actually becoming a victim to this little 5-year-old boy. Not his fault. He's just doing his thing, and his parents were really happy for him to come safely next door. The stress and the difficulty was with me. Couldn't say no. And there were other kids that would come over and play, but particularly this little boy from the next door. Anyway, so I talked it over with Greg at the time, and I imagine that quite a bit of my behaviour was not able to say no to many things at that time. But the particular thing that was worrying me was not being able to say no to this little boy. And Greg suggested, well, we could move. And I knew at the time, no, because if we move, I'll never be able to face this. I really need to change this pattern, because wherever we go, I'd take the pattern with me. And how true is that of us all?
Yep.
So what I ended up doing is striking up all my courage this one particular day, and the little boy comes over, and I open the door and I can see him there, and I said, let's call him Harry. Harry, you've come over to play? And he said, yep. And I went, not today. And I knew not to go into any great explanation, but I just said, not today, Harry. And he looked at me in horror, and off he went home, and I closed the door. And I thought, well, good on you, Janine, well done. And then in the next moment, I heard a knock at the door. And I opened the door, and there was Harry with his mum. And his mum said, Harry wanted to come over to play. And I went, and panicked. had a panic attack and knew that I needed to address this because it wasn't going to go away, I got as many words as I could out and ended up saying, not today, and I'm just going to spend time with my girls. And with that, his mum and Harry left. I closed the door, and that was the beginning of me saying no. And I remember I used to get incredible headaches because it was so difficult for me to say. Just slowly over time, I began to say no more often. And it meant that I was more myself. I was saying no because I wasn't about pleasing everybody else. And the interesting thing, what I found is that when I said yes, it was a real full yes, that I really wanted to be involved. And people experienced that of me. And I hope they experience it of me that now. If I say yes, I'm all in, and I'm going to say a respectful and caring no as well to them and to me. And that feels very different, but it was a very painful and important pattern to change.
So yeah, that started from something really small, like the boys coming round to play.
Yeah, that's right. And quite innocently, and nobody else's fault.
Yeah.
And not even my fault.
No fault.
An important pattern to change.
Yeah. Well, you certainly have changed it.
I have.
You're really clear when you don't want to do something, and you're right into it when you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're clear with me, you're clear with everybody around you.
Yeah, and I don't have those, horrendous headaches that I used to have.
That was my next question. So did it actually change? It's interesting, isn't it? It can change physically as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We talk about brain changes, but there's body parallel changes that can happen and need to happen for us all.
Yep. So there's something about value in there too. Like, my easiest way to explain it is that my partner and I, Peter, we started a business in the late 80s, and it was customers, a lot of things, but it was essentially focused around customized software for some fairly big companies, as well as smaller ones and middle-sized ones.
So you were dealing in technical stuff, yeah?
No, we were designing software.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and around that we did all sorts of other things like networks, and remember, this was the 80s, the internet wasn't here yet and all that sort of stuff. So we had a few, not disasters, but we lost a bit of money here and there. So we came up with a formula which suited us well, and we thought gave our clients bargaining space, although most of them never used it, so we did quite well. And the thing about that is not that we did well, is that we put a value on our work. Yeah, and somehow, interestingly and somewhat mysteriously, that value on my work, and on Peter's, I think it had a similar effect, but you'd have to ask him. But anyway, for me, it had an effect about how I valued myself.
Yes, and what we've been talking about over the last couple of podcasts as well is really believing in yourself and giving yourself supportive self-talk. And this thing of value is really important because that happens and impacts us whatever we're doing. So in business and in whatever.
Right. Yep. But, there's a but. I went through all kinds of changes after that, and Peter left the business. So after he left, that didn't change. I still had that same formula and I still used it, but it didn't go anywhere further than the business. So I got really valued myself in what I did.
But you didn't value yourself in other relationships, is that what you meant?
I probably didn't see myself very much in other than that.
Okay.
And so I put more and more of me into work. Anyway, that went well for a long time, and then life took over. And
But what's interesting about that, I'm just going to interrupt you there for a minute, is that you're saying that in one area of my life, I learned to value myself, and then in another area of life, I didn't have that same value.
No, not at all. No. So what happened is after that business finished, and I was in a hell of a mess again for some time, when I came out of that and sorted myself out again, what happened was, and I got back into work, I'd lost even that little part of value. And if I tried to apply it, it didn't work. And I now understand why it didn't work. So I'm just beginning to be able to do it again. Now, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But it's no longer in a box. It's about the whole of me. And it's in everything that I do. So
In all aspects of your life.
yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
stop often. And I'll give myself some space. Like, yeah, okay, I'll say to somebody, okay, that's great. I'll have a think about it and get back to you. You know, so I give myself some space to work out what it is that I want out of that and what's good for me and what's not good for me
Okay.
and how to present that. You know, so that's valuing myself, and that's also about changing patterns too.
And it is, and I'm going to connect it in with my other story around saying no, because if I say yes to everything, then what I'm doing is saying I'm putting everybody else's value on my time and the things that I do and my resources and everything about me based on what everybody else wants, not what I want.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
So what I want to do is I want to value myself, and I also want to perhaps give back to society, give back to my friendships, but I make a choice around that.
Yeah. So it's both, but the
Absolutely.
order that it comes in is really important. It has to be me first.
Yeah.
And it's like that for so many things now.
Yeah, but if I believe in myself,
Yes.
and if I think I'm valuable,
Yeah.
then I will do the same with you.
Yes.
So there's that internal, external
But
thing.
that I can now see that, and if I love myself,
Yeah,
then that makes me lovable. Others will love me.
absolutely.
Yeah. And how is it now? Yeah, I think I said to I had a couple of recent experiences where I undervalued myself in my work, therefore I undervalued myself. But it's no longer the same. I learn from it, you know. So I go away and think, I've done that now, so I'll keep to that arrangement, but I won't be doing that again. And I might think about, you know, why did I do that? What was there about?
You know
My
that.
connection with that person that I did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know that thing where people talk about you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah,
2
I
steps
believe
forward.
that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to add something else in the mix.
Oh,
Is that sometimes I think maybe it looks like that. 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
yeah.
But what I think it often is we're facing a different situation. And
Yeah.
so I don't know how I'm actually going to be and how I'm going to continue to be that person moving forward. And so, there's a new situation that I'm facing and I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it. And so I might appear to take a step back, but if I'm aware of it and I acknowledge it, then maybe the next time I face that same situation, it might be a forward.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think you can't know with our growing selves what we're going to face, and sometimes that will be facing something very different each time.
And that's why that thing for me about, yep, that's great, all great, and get back to you about the money and the timing later. That gives me a bit of space.
Yeah.
And I could have done that the other day,
Okay.
but I didn't. So, yeah.
So that brings me to time out.
Okay.
And maybe we'll take a break and then we'll explore this idea of time out.
Time out. Oh, I thought that's what you meant. Oh, there's me reaching. You meant time out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can take a time out
You want to
so
t-
that we can consider time out.
So we can talk about time out after this time out.
Good idea.
Let's have a time out.
So you've heard me talk about time out for a long time now.
Yeah?
So tell me what you think it is.
I don't know.
What is it?
Time out. It's a big T.
Which means?
It's what I was talking about, isn't it?
Yes.
It's about allowing myself,
Yeah.
whether it's just me or whether it's me and other people, to say, yeah, okay, I'll think about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that little space.
Yeah.
I mean, I call it a timeout, but it can refer to so much of what I just call that space. That little bit of space to help me make a decision that doesn't feel reactive.
Pressured.
Yes.
Pressured.
And just take all that pressure off.
That's what happened to me the other day.
Yeah.
Pressured into
That's
making
right.
a decision on the spot when I should have said, okay, got that, I'll get back to you in a day.
Well, I think it's one of these skills that can be used widely. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat on it because...
Yeah. Is that like a hat?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know if I've used the right word again.
No,
but
you
anyway,
haven't. So just me. Yeah.
because if people use a timeout to avoid a discussion or to use it to dismiss someone or not get into a conversation that they don't want to in a very unhealthy way, that's not what we're talking about. So I'm talking about some space that occurs to help you make a decision, and that can be a very assertive decision, particularly if you're being passive or even if you're used to being aggressive. And when I say those things, you can be just sitting either side of assertive and just not quite comfortable with your delivery, and you need some space to help you make a sensitive but supportive response.
So you can use it instead of reacting. Like
Yeah,
when somebody pushes
yeah, basically.
the
I'm
button.
trying to make it all technical.
No, if somebody pushes a button, then you can decide to not react, and maybe you'll respond later if that's needed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you described it really lovely, the way you talked about it in business. You would say, thanks for that. With the job, I'm going to look at it and get back to you with a price. So what you're actually doing is you're actually taking a bit of space to go, what is my value?
Yeah.
And how do I value my time and my resources and my skill and me as a person? And I think that's true of us when we're locked into saying yes for everything or saying no to everything. I think the opposite is true as well.
Yeah.
That if we give a little bit of space, we can consider it and go, actually, this would be really good for me to do, or, oh, I keep saying yes to no, this is time when I need to say no. And then you can use that self-talk to go, I can do this, and help yourself make a different decision.
Yeah. And you can discard stuff. So somebody pushes a button and I take time to think about it.
Yeah.
So I don't, I haven't wasted anything. So if I decide that there is no need to respond, whereas some time ago I might have just taken them up on it and said, you bugger. Whatever, just being reactive. There isn't any need to be reactive at all. And that's not to say that I'm not still reactive. Sometimes
I think we can all get caught.
being in a car, I can do that.
And what?
In a car.
What do you mean? Oh.
Driving along, listening to the music, and somebody cuts it. Beep, beep, get out the way, you bloody useless bugger.
We could call that reactive.
That's reactive.
Yes,
Yeah.
we could. We could call that.
It's already
reactive.
all over, so what am I doing? Yeah.
And that's a really common one because people are in this protective vehicle and maybe they think that they're, what's that word, indispensable, or they've got superpowers and everybody else is useless and stupid, and so it's easy to be kind of reactive. You're giggling what?
My dad, when he was teaching me to drive, he used what you just said. I was quite good at it, it was easy to teach. And he said, the secret about driving is you're just going from A to B and you'll get there and you'll be okay as long as you treat everybody else on the road like idiots.
Okay. Basically, we could reword that. We could do a little... We could word that as a bit of narrative therapy. We could say, let's drive
Narrative
cautiously.
therapy.
Yes,
We were
well,
talking
we
about
could drive cautiously and we could drive passively, giving everybody more space and looking after ourselves on the road and
He
not
was-
driving aggressively.
He-
That might be one way.
He wasn't an aggressive driver, but it was an interesting way that he taught. He'd learnt to drive.
Oh, look,
know.
I think there's some sense in it, but
Yeah.
in the driving, not necessarily thinking that everyone else is idiots.
No. But
But it does prepare you in case somebody makes a mistake, and we all do those.
Well, I guess what he meant was, you keep your awareness about you all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a good
I have this thing, I've told you about it. I know I've told you about it. I had that accident and my car was written off. And so I didn't drive, I wouldn't get back in a car for over a year. And my friend persuaded me to the car that I'd bought and I hadn't yet driven to actually just drive it around the block once every day. So I got back in the car and I didn't feel comfortable.
That sounds like a good friend.
Yeah, and I was here one day talking to you and I don't know how it came up. I told you about it and you said something along the lines of just affirm that you're okay and that you're safe. And so every time I get in the car without fail now, I say no accidents today and I'm completely safe. Which doesn't affect anybody else on the road. It just makes me far more aware of what I'm doing driving this car. Yeah.
I don't care how you do it, Kevin.
Yes.
I think it sounds wonderful.
It's really good. It really works. It's just an awareness.
Yeah, and that affirming thing and
Yeah.
believing in yourself.
You're driving a bullet, basically.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, how did we get on to that? We need time out for that too.
Well, that's all around changing patterns. The only other thing I'd say around changing patterns is it's really important to be compassionate to self
Yeah.
and to the others. If you're a person that changes patterns easily,
Yeah.
then I think it's easy to judge others if they really struggle with changing patterns.
Yep.
I just gave Kevin a cold kombucha, and if anyone doesn't know about those drinks, they have no sugar in them, and they've got a little bit of a bite to them, and he's just put on this very strange face. Are you listening to what I'm talking about?
I was listening. It's just that it's like, and
Licking a lemon.
it's also nice as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't keep doing it. Every time I take a sip, I go both horrible and yum. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe I'm just perverse and I'm going to drink it. I don't know. I don't think so.
To torture yourself.
No, it's I like it and I don't
Okay.
like it. It's a strong
Well, that's
taste.
why I said it's like licking a lemon. When you go, ah!
I wouldn't do that though.
Okay.
But I'd drink that.
Oh,
Even though, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Some of us might like that. I don't know.
It's got nothing to do with changing patterns. But it could have.
It could have.
Yeah, maybe I won't drink things that I'm not enjoying.
Or, or you could say no to me. No thanks, Janine.
I could have.
Or if you're not liking it, you could say, I won't be finishing that.
Well, I think I probably will. I probably won't finish it actually. But that's not because I'm going "Ugh," every time I take it. It's because it's just too much for me.
Okay.
Too much in terms of how much there is left to drink.
So,
So, where are we?
I was talking about compassion.
Compassion.
Because sometimes it's difficult for people to change patterns, and the reality is if you're getting frustrated with someone else, you're trying to change it for them, and you can't do that. But all you can do
You
is
must change patterns. That's what Yell would say. Hey, change that pattern. Yeah, change it right now.
And how's that going for you?
It's all right for him. It's not all right for me. No, it's not. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't
No,
work. It doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
And
No.
if you get frustrated with someone, all it's going to leave you is you're going to be affected. They might be fine. They'll just go on doing the same thing they've done forever. So
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to some key points. The only person you can change is yourself. Compassion is really important for yourself and for others as you're changing
You
patterns.
could kidnap somebody, then you could change them.
You could delude yourself in thinking that you're going to change them by kidnapping them. Absolutely. And the third thing is you can take a time out if you need. And when I take a time out, I'm not saying, let me think about it and I'll get back to you in a month.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is a little bit of space, and it might be sometimes 10 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, it might be half a day.
Sure.
But if you name it...
Yeah. You say when you get back.
Yeah, you say when you get back. And we'll talk about that more, and I'll clarify it more. Perhaps there'll be some questions and stuff when we have a space and a forum to give that sort of feedback.
So you could say something like, I'll get back to you next lifetime. Oh, I think Yells escaped.
Okay, yeah, you can't tell them that.
Oh, sorry. No, erase that. Yeah.
I think it's a really good skill to have.
Time out.
Mm.
So that's what I was thinking. Everybody needs a time out then.
Well, if you think about a holiday's that. A holiday is a time
That's a
to
big time
stop
out, potentially.
and reflect. So that's actually what the hope is that we all can do, is stop, reflect, go, what's life doing for us? What do we need or could we do differently? And how do I want to be different if that's possible? Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want a kombucha?
Shall we wrap it up and you can leave that? So you just said, Kevin, I'll drink the kombucha, and I went, no! And then what happened? You realised.
Yeah, it tastes like, it reminded me of rhubarb. Oh dear. My dad grew all sorts of things, and he put rhubarb down in the back garden, and I don't know what happened, it just went crazy. Gooseberries! I hated them too. And the gooseberries and the rhubarb ended up growing where the garden wasn't, down the side of the house, and there would be piles of rhubarb in the kitchen, and my mum would cook up rhubarb this and a rhubarb that. Rhubarb and custard. Nothing else, no pie, just rhubarb and custard. It's disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. I hate the taste of it, I hate the sight of it, and I hate the smell of it. And yeah, that reminded me this kombucha thing, which is not rhubarb at all. It's lemonade and raspberry, apparently.
But it does taste a bit like that, and I can...
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because my little nana used to make rhubarb and apple pie, and it was the best.
Rhubarb and apple, for some reason, is different.
Okay.
And
all
plus
right.
the fact it's a pie. Imagine getting a bowl full of, what was it, boiled, I imagine, boiled rhubarb with a whole bunch of custard, bright yellow custard chucked on the top. That's it.
I think some of our listeners might really like that, so we won't judge.
I feel sorry for you.
But the interesting thing is, had we not had this conversation, I might have been a bit judgy and gone, Kevin doesn't like it because it hasn't got sugar in it.
Well, that's probably true.
Okay, you're right.
There you go. I have a bit of trouble with sugar. Yeah.
Okay. I like these extra conversations because I think it adds some insight.
Yeah, we've just stuck this on the end. After
I'm
we
going
said
to put
goodbye.
it in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, end of it is that I'm not drinking the kombucha, but I'm still having trouble with it sitting there. I still want to pick it up and have a drink. And I want it to be different.
Or you can move it. I don't mind.
Well, even if I move it, I'll still want to pick it up. So I'm going to go home and have, my only drink really, coconut water.
Oh, you do like that.
Yeah, that's
it's really
all
good.
I drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for listening all out there, and we'll look forward to chatting again, and hopefully you'll be with us again.
Thanks.
There'll be a spot
Yeah.
on the podcast where you can provide feedback. I think if you go to the show,
That's right though, down the bottom,
down the bottom
and you can leave a review.
in the show, there's some stars you can leave, and you can leave
Oh,
a review if
yeah.
you want. Feel free.
Feel free to say whatever you like as long as it's fantastic.
That's not how we do it.
Isn't it?
No.
Okay. Fabulous then.
Okay.
Brilliant.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.